Welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha, a podcast shared by David Roylance. This podcast is dedicated to guiding you to completely eliminate the discontent mind and the suffering it causes by attaining enlightenment. Learn and practice the teachings of Gotama Buddha that will guide you to fully attain a peaceful, calm, serene, and content mind with joy. To support this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha or visit buddhadailywisdom.com, where you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online learning resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Now, here's our teacher to share more.
Sawadee Kap. Hello and welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha. Today is our group learning program, and I'm in Volume 1, Chapter 15, which is titled True Love, Love Without Attachment. This is a topic that's going to help you to be able to have more harmonious relationships. If you're finding that relationships are a struggle, whether it's with your parents, your siblings, a life partner, children, or anybody like this is because the mind is having certain lack of wisdom about true love and how to have love without attachment. You might be experiencing broken relationship after broken relationship and finding that you might think that love is actually painful and you might be pushing away some relationships and things like this. But by the end of today, you're going to be able to learn the wisdom of what true love is and how to love without attachment. And then it's going to take you many months and even years to be able to practice this in all the different situations that you're in so that you're going to have fulfilling, satisfying, and sustaining relationships, because that's one of the joys of life, is to have wonderful relationships with the people around you. By the time you get to enlightenment, you won't even have the slightest dislike towards another being. Right now, you might be having certain people you like and certain people you dislike, and I'm going to help you to understand how this is coming from your own mind and that love actually doesn't hurt. Love is not actually painful at all. There's nothing about love that's actually painful. So I'm going to help you to understand that after our meditation today. So welcome to everyone, whether you're joining for the first time or you're joining regularly. If you'd like to join for meditation, I'm going to start with some chanting to ease us into the meditation. Then there's going to be a period of time where I'm giving you some guidance to help you in your meditation. Then there'll be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're just all meditating together. Then we'll come out of the meditation with some more chanting. And if you'd like to chant along, you're more than welcome to. These chants are on our website at buddhadailywisdom.com. Just click on free books and go down towards the bottom. You'll see the daily chanting sheet. And there's nothing mystical or magical here. It's not prayer or worship or anything like that. Today we use chanting as a way to ease the mind in the meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. So I'm going to start us off with the chanting and then I'll come back in with the guidance. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Bhutang Bhagavanang Abhivateyami Savakato Bhagavata Tammo Dhammang namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Saṅghang namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti pisu chacharanang sammuno Sakato rokavitu Anutero purisa Dhamma sati satatavap manusanang Poto Bhagavati. Okay, if you'd like to make yourself comfortable, start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa Photang Mahakavanhang Aphivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakawa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammono Sakato Rokavito Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusram Poto Bhagavati. Okay, if you'd like to gradually make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to all of you guys that are here in the class. Welcome to anyone who's joining us on Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. Welcome to anyone who's listening to this on the replay as well. Nice to have all of you guys in class today, being interested to learn the teachings of the Buddha. Today I'm going to share with you guys teachings about true love, love without attachment. This is going to help you to develop harmonious relationships, because oftentimes when we have a lack of wisdom, we misunderstand what love is, and therefore we really struggle and have difficulties in relationships. We experience broken relationship after broken relationship after broken relationship, or we struggle in the relationships that we currently have, where there might be bitterness and harshness and hostility, either from you to those people or those people to you. By understanding what true love is, you can understand this and then start practicing true love more and more. And then as you're practicing true love more and more, you're going to see more and more true love coming back to you. It would be unwise to practice true love just because you want other people to love you, but just understand that is a result of the decisions, that as you make decisions to understand more of what true love is and practice that in your relationships more and more, you're going to see more and more true love coming back to you. And then you'll actually be able to identify it when it's coming back to you. Because one of the challenges we have with a lack of wisdom is not only that we're not practicing true love, but oftentimes we have difficulties identifying it when it's actually coming back to us. So today's class is going to help you to start developing your understanding of what true love is so that you can practice it and then start receiving it. And you can have more satisfying, fulfilling, and sustaining relationships in your life. As we go in today's class, you're more than welcome to ask any and all questions. I'm going to be pausing at different times, opening up to questions. You can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section. I'll be able to see that. Or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and ask any and all questions that you like. So the first thing I need to share with you is that in the unenlightened state, we misunderstand what love is, and therefore we oftentimes think that love is very painful and that it's causing these painful feelings. And one of the things that you might have done at different times in your life when you're experiencing those painful feelings is attributing it to your love, and that because you love this person so much, you might think that you're actually having painful feelings because of that. And you might actually be pushing people away or have pushed people away out of your life because of this. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to remind you of what is actually causing these painful feelings. For some of you guys, this will be a reminder. For some of you that haven't studied with me before, this will be maybe the first time that you've learned this, that the Buddha teaches in the Four Noble Truths what is actually causing your painful feelings. And this is important for you to understand in order to understand true love, because right now you might be thinking that love is causing your painful feelings, and you're going to be able to see that that's not actually true. So the Buddha in the Four Noble Truths, he explains the problem in the unenlightened mind, the cause of that problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward of how to completely solve the problem. In the first Noble Truth, he explains that the problem is discontentedness, these conditioned feelings, that the mind, based on some condition, is experiencing pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. But that's only temporary. It arises, it changes, and it fades away. And the mind ultimately is left with uncomfortable feelings. Then there's painful feelings that are in the mind, like sadness, anger, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom. These are all experienced in the unenlightened mind, and they're very painful to experience. Then there's feelings that are neither painful nor pleasant, like shyness or dissatisfaction or uncomfortableness. This is what the mind's experiencing, is pleasant feelings, painful feelings, and neither painful nor pleasant. And this is the problem, that essentially the mind's going up and down and up and down and up and down, and here and there you're experiencing some peace and joy every once in a while, or maybe some calmness every once in a while, but it's only a matter of time before the mind becomes agitated or frustrated or annoyed. So that's the problem that the Buddha discovered in each individual unenlightened mind. Then in the second Noble Truth, he's explaining the cause of that problem, which discontentedness, these discontent feelings, are caused by the mind's own craving, desire, attachment, because the mind wants everything to be permanent when everything in the world around you is impermanent. So the mind is longing, yearning. It's craving for things to be a certain way. It has certain expectations. It's longing, it's yearning. And if it gets what it wants, then it gets happy or excited or elated. But if the mind doesn't get what it wants, it gets these painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and others. So I'd like you to think about a relationship that you might have had, maybe a boyfriend or girlfriend, where you guys first got together. You might have experienced all these painful feelings towards the end of the relationship or even during the relationship. But this wasn't being caused by the love. Initially, when you guys first got together, you might have gotten all these pleasant feelings where you were so happy and excited when you first met this person. And when you first met this person, they were maybe meeting your expectations. They were maybe taking you out to dinner. Maybe you're going to the movies. Maybe they were calling you and checking in on you. Maybe they were sending you text messages. Maybe you guys were going to the park, having great conversations. Maybe at some point you started having intimate contact. And as you were experiencing all of these things, there was all this pleasantness, all these happy emotions and feelings and excitement when these things were going on. But then over time, your expectations grew where you wanted more and more things from this person, and they couldn't fulfill your expectations. And then they had certain expectations that kept growing and growing and growing, and you couldn't fulfill their expectations. And this relationship became so discontent that you guys broke up. And now that's where maybe even more anger and frustration came in. Maybe loneliness and boredom. Maybe you started missing this person when you were experiencing that breakup. Well, this wasn't being caused by the love. What was causing this was the mind's craving, desire, attachment. The mind was holding on. It was craving permanence and wanting things to be a certain way in this relationship. The mind was craving for this relationship to be permanent. As long as you were getting what you wanted, which was this relationship, the mind was happy and excited. But when you didn't get what you wanted, when you experienced impermanence, the mind struggled with that. And now the mind experienced the anger and the frustration or the loneliness or the boredom because the mind was holding on and craving permanence. The same thing is happening in other kind of more basic things. Like if it's sunny outside, you might get happy because your mind's getting what you want. But then when it's raining outside, you might be angry or frustrated. Or if your bank account balance is up here, you might get really happy or excited. But when it goes down here, you get frustrated or agitated or annoyed. Here you can see that it's not other people that are causing your mind to be angry or frustrated, because with the sun and the rain, there's no other person involved. Or with your bank account, there's no other person involved. It's just money that's sitting in an account. It's just a couple of numbers on a statement or on a website. And now the mind is experiencing painful feelings because of that. So as long as your mind keeps thinking that these painful feelings are being caused by another person, you might falsely believe that your love is what's causing you these painful feelings. You can even think about, like, maybe if someone close to you has died, maybe grandma or grandpa or mom or dad or brothers or sisters or other people like this. When people die, oftentimes there's sorrow and there's grief and there's pain and displeasure. You're not a bad person if you're experiencing these things. You haven't done anything wrong necessarily. It's just what the unenlightened mind does. This is that it holds on and it craves permanence. As long as grandma and grandpa are alive, the mind's getting what it wants and it's happy. But then when they die, the mind experiences the painful feelings. It's not the love that's causing that. It's because the mind's craving permanence. When in reality, you live in an impermanent world. If you look around the world around you, you're not going to be able to find anything that's permanent. Everything around you is constantly changing. So the mind, with its lack of wisdom of the second noble truth, will constantly think that other people are causing you to be angry or frustrated, when in reality, it's the mind craving permanence. You can look at a wedding, if you've ever been to a wedding and you were grieving or sorrowful or sad, or maybe the people around you were. This is where the mind's holding on and craving permanence. Maybe brother or sister or friend or coworker is going off into the world with somebody else, and the mind is sorrowful and it's grieving because this represents impermanence. That it's like the mind thinks like, that's my brother, that's my sister. How dare you take her away from me? Or how dare you take him away from me? And now the mind is struggling during that period of time because it's experiencing this impermanence, where the mind's holding on and it's craving this permanence. You can think back to when you got dropped off at university, or maybe if you can remember back when you got dropped off at grade school, or if you've ever seen kids get dropped off for the first time at school, they're oftentimes crying and upset. It's not because they love their parents, they're just going to school. That's all that's happening. The reason why they're upset and frustrated or having certain emotions is because the mind's holding on and craving that permanence and wanting mom and dad to be permanent. And here they go out into the world by themselves, thinking that mom and dad are permanent, but yet they go out into the world by themselves. And now when an individual experiences these painful feelings, falsely attributing it to something external, you will tend to push people away, or you'll push the situation away. So you might have pushed away friends or family members or coworkers or people like this. This is normal for the unenlightened mind with its lack of wisdom of the second noble truth. This is called aversion, where you're pushing people away or you're pushing the situation away. The mind thinks that this is going to solve the problem. But you can see it didn't solve the problem, because the problem is that the mind's getting angry and frustrated and irritated and all these other discontent feelings. If these people were the ones who were causing that, when you push them away, you wouldn't become angry or frustrated or irritated anymore. Or the second thing you'll do with the lack of wisdom of the second noble truth is you'll be bitter and harsh and hostile towards people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. It's almost like an animal growling and roaring at another animal, trying to fear it into doing things your way. Because again, the mind thinks, if I can just get my cravings fulfilled, if I can just get things my way, I'll get those pleasant feelings. So the mind's trying to fear this other being into doing things your way through bitterness and harshness and hostility. And this really weighs on your relationships. And people might choose to leave out of your life because of that. Or you might put your expectations on people and try to control them and pressure them or convince them to do things your way. And again, people might leave out of your life because they feel pressured in this situation. So you need to come to the understanding of what is really causing these painful feelings. Otherwise, you're going to keep misunderstanding this. You're going to be looking in the wrong places for the solution, and you're going to keep experiencing anger and frustration and hostility over and over and over again. Because that's what you're putting out, that's what's going to come back to you. So by you taking a moment here and thinking about a recent situation where you've been angry or frustrated or agitated, you can independently verify what I'm sharing with you is true. Because as you guys know, I teach you not to believe anything that I share. You should never believe what I'm teaching you. You need to be able to see the truth for yourself. So if you take a moment to look at a recent situation, maybe this morning or yesterday or last week, where you were frustrated or agitated or irritated, you need to be able to look at that and think about what was it that was causing that? What was it that your mind wanted? There was something you were longing, yearning for. If you look at this situation with fresh eyes, you'll be able to see this. Because at the time, you might have been trying to blame somebody else for the feelings and emotions that you were having, but you can look at it with these fresh eyes. There was something you wanted. You were longing, yearning for it. And if you would have got it, you would have been happy. But because the mind didn't get what it wanted, it got frustrated or irritated or annoyed. And if you're having trouble seeing this, let me know so that I can help you. Because I've had plenty of students ask me over the years various questions. Because what I'm sharing with you is that your mind is causing these discontent feelings. It's happening within your own mind. I've had students say to me, David, I went to work the other day. My house looked beautiful. I came home after a hard day at work. My wife had this craft project all over the house, and I got angry and frustrated as soon as I walked in the door. How did my mind cause these feelings? Because I wasn't even there. She's the one who messed up the house. Didn't she cause me to be frustrated? And my reply to them was, no, your wife didn't cause that. What caused it was your craving, your expectation, your wanting this permanence. That when you went to work, you had this idea, this expectation, this craving, this wanting the house to look a certain way permanently. And when you came home and you experienced this impermanence, your mind didn't like that. And now you got frustrated. So another way to say that the mind craves permanence is to say that the mind does not like impermanence. It does not like change. Think about times that you've experienced the most struggles and difficulties in your life. This is when things were changing. Even if you decided that those were changes that you were interested in making, like if you changed jobs or you changed where you live or some other things were changing in your life, as you experienced this change, these were the times that you most likely were struggling the most in your day-to-day life because the mind's holding on and it's craving this permanence. And what the mind's going to do with its lack of wisdom is falsely associate these painful feelings to something external. And you might think, because I loved her so much, I hurt. Or because I loved him so much, I'm experiencing these painful feelings. Because the mind falsely assumes that it's the love that is causing these painful feelings. Because the people that you will have the most discontentedness with are the people that you're closest to. Your life partners, your children, your parents, your brothers and sisters, because the mind is attached to them, holding on the most. Where like your friends and people like this, you don't have as much attachment to them, so you don't experience the same painful feelings. And this is why you might associate with the painful feelings being from love, because it's the people you're closest to that you're experiencing the most difficulties and struggles in those painful feelings. So when you come to understand that these painful feelings aren't being caused by love, you can understand that it's the real problem is the craving, desire, attachment in the mind, and you can open yourself up to learning what is true love so that now you can learn that and practice it and experience more fulfilling, satisfying, and sustaining relationships. But if you keep thinking that the painful feelings are being caused by the love, you might be pushing love away. You might be like, I'm never going to date another guy again, or I'm never going to go out with that girl again. I'm never going to get married again. There's just no way I want to do that. And you might be distancing yourself from people. And then you feel quite lonely and you feel quite bored in the world. And you feel like maybe life isn't so fulfilling because you don't have these satisfying relationships. So when you come to understand that the discontentedness is being caused by your own mind, then the third noble truth is helping you to see that you have the ability to eliminate it. Because if this is being caused by your own mind, then you have the ability to actually eliminate it. The Buddha explains that the elimination of discontentedness is possible by eliminating the craving, desire, attachments. If the cause of discontentedness is craving, desire, attachment, then if you eliminate the cause, then you will eliminate the effect. right? You won't have to experience the discontent feelings if you eliminate the cause of them. So the Fourth Noble Truth explains that the complete perfect plan to eliminate craving, desire, attachment is the Eightfold Path. And this is something that I teach in all these various programs, and I taught it back in the beginning of this program, where you can learn each individual step of the Eightfold Path, because this is a core central teaching that's helping you to train your mind to eliminate your cravings, desires, attachments, so that you can get to the point where your mind's experiencing less and less discontentedness, and ultimately it's completely eliminated. And now you can have more satisfying and fulfilling relationships. So the mind in the unenlightened state is misunderstanding attachment as love. This craving, desire, attachment is masquerading as love. We'll meet somebody and we'll be either physically attracted to them. We might be attracted to them financially, about how much money they have. We might be attracted to them in terms of their social status or some other things, maybe their material objects that they have. And then we'll get to know this person to a certain degree. And then after spending some time with them for a few weeks or a few months, we might say to them, I have fallen in love with you. And they say, oh, I've fallen in love with you too. And now we're in love. We've fallen in love with each other. And now we go through a period of time where we're in love and we're treating each other as if we're in love. But then over time, as our expectations grow and they're not meeting those, and their expectations grow and we're not meeting those, then this relationship becomes very discontent. We become very frustrated, agitated in these relationships. And then we might go to this person, or they might come to us and say, I've fallen out of love with you. I don't love you anymore. I've lost my passion. We need to end our relationship. And now we break up and we end the relationship. And that's where the real struggles are really happening too, because there's anger and sadness and loneliness and boredom, and we're missing this person. Well, what's really transpired here is not that we have fallen in love with this person or fallen out of love with this person. There might have been love in there, but that's not the love. What's being described there is not the love. What you hear in music sometimes when people are singing songs, when they're talking about, I can't live without you. I'm down on my knees begging you, please don't go. This is not love. This is attachment. This is my feelings are attached to you. If you're with me, I will be happy. And if you're not with me, I will be miserable and I can't function, right? And if you understand impermanence, this individual can't be with you permanently. Even if you guys are together in a wonderful relationship, they're going to go away on a trip sometime. And now when you're with them, you feel happy, you feel excited. But when they're away from you, you feel lonely or bored or miserable, or you're grieving. That's not the love that's causing that. That's the attachment. It's craving permanence. The mind is craving for this person to be permanent in your life. And now when they're gone on a business trip, you feel like you're sad or angry or miserable or lonely or bored or some other feeling like this. What we do in this early stage of the relationship, when there's craving, desire, attachment, is once this person is meeting our expectations, we might say to them that I love you. We might think in our mind that I love you, therefore I want you to be with me because you make me happy, right? This is our thought. I love you. I want you to be with me because you make me happy. And now at the beginning of the relationship that I've told you I've loved you, I will do all these things. I will do various things to show you that I love you. And I'll keep doing those things. But when you stop doing things my way, in the way that I want you to do them, the mind thinks, I don't love you anymore. And now the mind says, I'm out of love with you and I'll stop doing these things. So as long as this individual is doing things your way, the person is meeting your expectations, the individual will say, I love you. They'll function as if I love you. They'll do things as if I love you. But as soon as they're not meeting your expectations anymore, the mind will say, I don't love you anymore. All bets are off. And now the individual doesn't function as if you love this person. There's anger and bitterness and harshness and hostility, all this ill will coming out. I'm sure you guys have either been involved in or heard about, very difficult divorces and breakups in relationships. It's like trying to stab someone with a knife on the way out the door, because those painful feelings that an individual is experiencing, they think they're coming from that other person, right? This isn't the actual love that's causing this. This is the selfishness. This is the craving. This is, if you do things my way, I will tell you I love you, and I will function as if I love you, and I will do things as if I love you, and I'll tell you I love you. But when you stop doing things my way and you're not meeting my expectations, all bets are off. I'm going to say I don't love you anymore, and we need to end our relationship. So this is the craving, desire, attachment masquerading as love. It's not actual love. There could be love in there, but it's being polluted and tainted with these cravings, desires, attachments. So what you would like to be able to do in order to transform this is get to an understanding about true love. Because as long as you keep practicing craving, desire, attachment and thinking that that's love, you're going to have difficulties and struggles in your relationships over and over and over again. You'll keep struggling, and your relationships will feel unsatisfying and unfulfilling. So you're going to need to understand what true love is so that you don't allow this craving, desire, attachment to keep masquerading as love within your own mind or the people that you're spending time with and having relationships with. So you need to be able to see that this craving, desire, attachment is masquerading as love. And now you can get to true love, which is unconditional love. What true love is where you have care for another person and you don't want anything specific from them. You have a genuine interest in seeing them be well. You have active goodwill towards them. You don't want anything from them. You don't expect anything from them. You just love them as they are. Unconditional love. This craving, desire, attachment that's masquerading as love, there's no such thing as conditional love, but we might call that conditional love. It's basically like, you meet my conditions, you do what I want you to do, and I will say I love you. But when you stop meeting my conditions, I don't love you anymore. All bets are off. That's conditional love, even though there's no such thing as conditional love. What you're looking to get to in all your relationships is unconditional love, where you love individuals as they are. And one of the ways that you get to that is you need to be able to understand the difference between the person and the choices and decisions that they're making. You can disagree with someone's choices and decisions that they're making while still loving the person. Loving the person means you have a genuine interest in seeing this person be well. If you understand impermanence and that everybody is experiencing the universal truth of impermanence, then you know that there is no individual on the face of the earth that you will ever agree with 100% of the time. Whether it's your parents or your life partner or your children, they're going to make decisions that you disagree with. And if you can only love people who makes decisions the same way as you, then you're only ever going to be able to love one person in the world. And ask yourself, who is that person? Who's that one person that makes decisions the same way as you? Right? I see Paul, I think he's pointing to himself, right? I'm not sure. So it's only you that's going to be making decisions the same way as you, right? It's only you. So in situations where you're having difficulties and struggles, you might even be having struggles to love yourself. Right? So if you can only love people who do things the same way as you, you're only going to be able to love yourself. And you might even find that difficult sometimes to love yourself because of the expectations that you put on yourself, and you're not meeting those expectations. So you have difficulties actually loving yourself. So you'd like to separate the choices and decisions that someone's making from the person themselves, where you can disagree with their choices and decisions while still loving the person. Right? And now you can get to unconditional love. Part of unconditional love is to understand that each person is responsible for their own wellness, their own happiness. You're not responsible for other people's happiness. In fact, if people are getting happy because of something that you're doing, that's conditional happiness. And that means that when you stop doing that thing, they're going to be sad or angry or frustrated. So each individual person is responsible for their own happiness, their own contentedness, their own joy, their own peacefulness. They're responsible for that themselves. You can't create happiness that is long-term and sustaining for people through your own actions. It's each individual person that needs to train their own mind to get to that happiness and that peace and that joy. Part of practicing true love is to understand that when you put expectations on other people and you try to control other people, That's your cravings, desires, attachments. That's craving, desire, attachment masquerading as love. So if you see mom and dad or brothers and sisters or your life partner, your children headed for a difficult situation, and you try to rush in there and try to make a bunch of decisions for them so that they don't encounter that difficult situation, that's your craving, desire, attachment. Your mind's thinking, oh my goodness, if this person struggles in life, I'm going to experience painful feelings, and I don't want to experience those painful feelings. And the mind thinks the way to make sure you don't experience those painful feelings is to rush in there, put a bunch of expectations on them, try to control them to do things your way, and then you won't experience those painful feelings. But the way you get rid of those painful feelings is you get rid of the craving, desire, attachment, where you're not trying to control this person and you don't want this person to be any particular way, where you can just love them unconditionally, love them as they are. So one of the ways you might think about this, if you have children or you have a life partner or your family or friends, your brothers and sisters, mom and dad, is think about your life as like a parallel process. That you're in life and they're in life and you guys are walking together in life. And they're going to have certain lack of wisdom and certain struggles in their life. And you're going to be able to potentially help them with that because you have certain wisdom that they might not have. And you could potentially help them with that. But you need to be sure that they're open to your suggestions and your advice. If you just burden them with your expectations and they're not open to your advice, then you're just using your own craving, desire, attachment, your own expectations, and your conceit, your arrogance, which we're going to talk about next week. You're stepping on top of them and trying to force them to do things your way, rather than just have this parallel process where you're giving them guidance and advice and suggestions based on their willingness to receive that guidance. If they're not interested in your guidance or your suggestions, you need to just let it go and just back off and let them head for that struggle or difficulty that they're headed for. And then they're going to cultivate the wisdom to be able to overcome that in the future. Or they might come to you and ask for help, and then you're able to help them. But if you just rush in there with a bunch of expectations and putting expectations on them, this isn't your love. This is another mistake, that people think that that's the love, that because I love this person, I don't want to see them struggle. That's the craving, desire, attachment, again, masquerading as love. Your mind knows that if they struggle, you're going to experience painful feelings, and you don't want to experience those painful feelings. So you think if I get them to do things my way and they don't struggle, then I will save myself of those painful feelings. But what you've got to do is get those cravings, those expectations, those wants out of the way, and realize the universal truth of impermanence is there, that your family members are going to struggle sometimes. That's part of life. And if they choose not to learn what they need to learn, especially if you're offering them advice, then that's a choice that they're making. And they need to walk towards that struggle and experience that struggle. And if you can step back and be peaceful and joyful, then you're not putting your expectations on them and you don't have this contentious relationship. You might even be in situations where there are certain people that you like and certain people that you dislike. By the time you're practicing true love and you're having love without attachment and you're practicing unconditional love, you can love everybody in the world. It doesn't matter who they are. You will have love for every single being in the world. Now remember, what love is a genuine interest in seeing this being be well. It doesn't mean that you're going to actually do something. It's a mental state. That's one of the challenges that people have, is they think that love is a feeling. And a feeling will arise, it will change, and it will fade away. That's what a feeling does. But the mental state of love, it doesn't arise, it doesn't change, and it doesn't fade away. It's just always there. It's unconditional. So you can get to a point where you love all beings in the world. Right now, you might have certain people that you like and certain people that you dislike. And you might think that the people that you dislike, that they're causing you to dislike them based on things that they're doing. But in reality, what's causing that is your craving, desire, attachment, your expectations. The mind is wanting people to be a certain way. And when they are that way, you like them. But when people don't meet your expectations, when they're not doing things your way, then an individual might say, I dislike that person. I don't like them. And again, this is the craving, desire, attachment, but this is also the conceit, the arrogance, the ego, which we're going to study next week, where the mind thinks that my way is the right way, and everybody else is doing things the wrong way, right? And now if they do it my way, it's the right way and I will like them. But if they don't do it my way, I don't like them. I dislike them. So when you get rid of your cravings, your desires, your expectation, your longing, your yearning, wanting things to be permanent, you can have love for all beings. Understanding the universal truth of impermanence, that beings are going to do things differently. That's because of impermanence. Not everybody can meet your expectations. It's just not possible, including yourself. You can't meet others' expectations and you can't meet your own expectations. So how could other people meet your expectations? So there's this unconditional love that you probably have in there, like towards your parents, towards your siblings, towards your children, towards your life partner, but it gets tainted with these expectations, with these cravings. And now you might be trying to force or control that person to do things a certain way. But when you get those cravings, desires, attachments out of the way, your true love can shine through more and more, and people can experience that true love through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. The way that you're interacting with people, people can experience that true love. So for me, I love every single one of you. I love every single being in the world. I don't want anything from you. I don't expect anything from you. You didn't earn my love, so there's nothing you can do for me to fall out of love with you. Doesn't matter what you do. You could go out and murder somebody today. I don't suggest it, but if you went out and murdered someone today and you called me from jail and said, hey, David, I made a terrible mistake, and even if you didn't say that, even if you just said, hey, I murdered somebody, I need your help, can you talk to me, right? I'm going to be there to talk to you because I love you. I would like to see you be well, right? My love is not contingent on anything. There's no condition that you have to meet in order for me to love you, where I can just love you as you are, where I can disagree with the choice and decision to murder somebody. I can disagree with that, but I can still love you as a person, meaning I have a genuine interest in seeing you be well, and I have active goodwill towards you. So this is why I share these teachings, because I have a genuine interest in seeing you be well. And I know that it's these teachings that are going to guide you to that wellness and to that peacefulness and to that joy. And there's no condition that you have to meet in order for me to share these teachings with you. There's love and there's respect that's coming from a place of unconditional love, where you didn't earn my love. So therefore, there's nothing you can do for me to fall out of love with you. At the height of true love, you could ultimately get to the point where someone could kill your mother or your children or somebody close to you. Somebody could murder them and you could still have love for them. Remember, love is a genuine interest in seeing this being be well, where when you can disagree with the choices and decisions that they made, but you can still have love for this person. It doesn't mean you're going to go sit down and have dinner with them and invite them into your house and these kinds of things, but you can have this genuine interest in seeing them be well, that you know that maybe they need to go to jail, maybe they need some education, maybe they need some rehabilitation and things like this, but you have a genuine interest in seeing this person be well. Because any kind of anger or hatred that comes up in your mind, it's just harming your own mind. There's no need to be angry and hateful towards this person, because that doesn't help you whatsoever. So by you maintaining the love, where you have a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, you can lay down this burden of having these expectations for everybody to be a certain way. And then you go around trying to figure out whether someone's meeting your expectations or not, almost like checking off a list of ensuring that they're doing what you expect them to do. So you can lay all that down and you can just smile and love everyone. So I'm going to pause here before I go further and just see if you guys have any questions about what is true love, because by asking any questions or getting any clarification that you need, this will be able to help you to then be able to understand further what I'm going to be sharing with you for the rest of today. So I see Paul has a question. So if you'd like to go ahead, Paul, you're more than welcome to ask your question.
Morning, David. Question I have is, all this discussion we're having here is mainly focused on love of others. But it's always said that what you first have to do is learn to love yourself.
Okay, is that your question? Like, why is it? Oh, looks like you froze up there, Paul. Okay, looks like Paul's frozen up. Let me see. Are you back, Paul? Let me see. Let me see if we have any questions on Facebook or YouTube. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions on Facebook or YouTube. Okay, looks like Bob, you have a question. Go ahead. Oh, Paul, you're back. Go ahead, Paul. You'll have to unmute yourself again.
Did you catch my question? I seem to have lost the connection in the middle of it.
Yeah, I heard you say that things that you've learned before is that in order to love others, you need to love yourself first.
That's what it's always been said, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, looks like we froze up again, Paul. All right, let me go to Kristen. Go ahead, Kristen, if you'd like to ask your question.
Yeah, my question is about a friend that I've had for many, many years, and I generally feel love for her, but I don't necessarily agree with the choices that she makes in her life, and so I still love her and care about her and will be there for her, but I don't choose to be around her. Is that okay?
Yeah, you can love someone from afar. You don't have to be involved in a relationship with someone in order to love them. Love is a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, and that doesn't require you or them to do anything specific, but it's just maintaining that genuine interest in seeing them be well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So what I'm going to do here, it seems like there's some people that would like to come into our Zoom, is I'm just going to pause all the video and all the audio, and let me see if we have anything anywhere else. It looks like we have someone here on YouTube asking a question: how to guide a young child on developing self-love and approval with true love. So you don't need anyone to be gaining approval. This is the mind's craving, desire, attachment, wanting to be approved by other people. But that's not something you would like to teach. You would like to help your children to learn about true love. And true love is something that someone can learn and they can grow and they can develop to understand. So helping first yourself to be able to learn what true love is. And once you learn what true love is for yourself and you're practicing that more and more, then you'll be able to actually practice it with the people around you, because now you'll have that wisdom of true love. You'll be practicing it with the people around you. And then more and more your children can learn what that is through your actual practice. And then you can actually sit down and help them and talk to them about what true love is. I needed to do this with my son on a few different occasions, because at one point he thought that his mom didn't love him. And I asked him, questions like, what does it mean to love someone? What is true love? What kinds of things would somebody do that actually has true love? And then we talked about it over multiple situations. And then slowly but surely, he was able to learn and understand what is true love. So you're going to need to first learn what true love is yourself to then be able to practice it with other people. Let me see what else we've got here. A child who has anger issues since very young. Yeah, so what your child's going to need to learn is the Eightfold Path, but you're going to need to learn it yourself. The issues that are coming from the anger is within one's own mind. It's craving, desire, attachment. It's not a biological thing that is causing the anger. It's within one's own mind. So if you can learn the Eightfold Path first, and it's going to take you multiple months to be able to learn that, then once you have that wisdom and you're practicing it more and more, you'll be able to then help your child to be able to learn that. And then slowly but surely, they can train their mind to get rid of any anger that's in their mind. My son, I started formally teaching him when he was 6 years old, the teachings of the Buddha. But I think back to when he was in the womb with his mom, she was meditating and doing things then. Even in his infancy and toddler, we were doing things to help train his mind. So depending on the age of your child, you can start training them no matter what age they are. And if you'd like specific examples of how to do that, you can schedule a personal guidance session with me by going to our website, buddhadailywisdom.com. There you'll see a link to be able to schedule personal guidance, and then I'll be able to talk with you and help to understand your child and what age they are, and helping you with age appropriate things that you can teach them that's going to be able to help them to train their mind and get to the point where they're not experiencing anger any longer. My son right now at the age of 12, he very rarely experiences any discontentedness. Maybe once, 2, 3 times a year, he gets a little bit irritated here or there, but that's it. It's very rare that he experiences those kinds of things because he's been able to train his mind over a consistent long-term period. So the way that this works is the parent needs to be able to understand it first, then they can teach the actual child. So I'm pleased to help you. You'll just need to schedule an appointment so that way we can talk about age-appropriate things for your children. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is let me just share my visual aids for the folks in Zoom, and we'll continue on. And then for those of you guys that have questions, we'll talk about those at a future point, okay? So here to learn more about true love and loving oneself, actually, let me see. Okay, Paul, I saw you had your hand up. You weren't here when we had some people come in. Where'd you go, Paul? Let me try to find you again. Oh, you're gone. Okay, so I'm just going to keep going then. I think Paul will come back at some point and we'll be able to help Paul with his questions. So we're actually going to talk about now what Paul was asking about, which is loving oneself. So as you guys are starting to hear and starting to understand is that what's getting in the way of true love is these expectations, that the cravings, desires, wants, and expectations, you might be putting these on other people and other people might be putting these on you. And now you guys find it challenging to practice true love in your day-to-day life because there's these expectations, there's this craving, desire, attachment. Well, not only can the mind do that with other people, where you might be having expectations of your parents or your brothers or life partners, your siblings, different people around you, but you can do this to yourself too, where you put expectations on yourself. And now when you're not meeting your expectations, you find it difficult to have love for yourself. So if you are putting these expectations on yourself where you're wanting yourself to do certain things, you're not going to be able to fulfill those expectations permanently. It's just not possible. So you'll work your way up to those expectations and then you'll be fulfilling them for a period of time and you'll be happy, but then your expectations will change. And now you have to work really hard to get to those. And now the mind can have these detrimental feelings, these degrading thoughts. You can be diminishing and degrading to this being who you are. So you need to learn how to let go of these expectations and these wants and get to the point where the mind's in the middle with what's called a true goal or a goal. Because when you're letting go of your craving, desire, attachment, your wants and expectations, the mind has a tendency to swing all the way over here to the other side where now the mind's dull and lethargic, it's complacent. And that's not where you're interested in being. You would like to come to the middle where you can have goals, objectives, or interests, and you can gradually work towards these through wise decision making. But sometimes what an individual is doing is they're having craving, desire, attachment, wants, and expectations, and that's masquerading as a goal. That if you get happy and excited when you meet a certain goal, and then you get angry or sad or frustrated when you don't meet it, that's not actually a goal. That's a craving, desire, attachment that's masquerading as a goal. That the mind is longing, yearning for this thing, and it's forming its inner feelings based on whether you accomplish it or not. That's craving, desire, attachment. What a true goal is where you can work towards something through wise decision making. And whether you accomplish it or you don't, you can maintain your contentedness, you can maintain your joy. So if you're working your way towards a goal and you're 80% of your way there, you can look at it and you can say, okay, I haven't met the goal, so what should I do here? I can add more resources to this in order to help me accomplish my goal. I can extend the timeline and give myself more time to meet this goal. Or maybe the 80% is just fine and I can be fine with just the 80%. That's all I need, right? But you're not forming your feelings on this goal of whether you actually accomplish it or not. And this will help you to be able to love yourself because you're not putting these expectations on yourself. But you can't be over here where you're unmotivated and you're dull and lethargic and complacent. So that's where the middle comes in, that you gradually work towards your goals, objectives, or interests through wise decision making. So that's what you're going to need to be able to do to get more and more love towards yourself, where you have this genuine interest in seeing this being be well, where you're not putting expectations on yourself and you're not putting expectations on others. So my son, I don't put expectations on him, but I guide him towards wise decision making. I don't put expectations on myself, but I have certain goals and objectives that I'm working towards, and I'm gradually working towards all those goals and objectives through wise decision making. So this will allow you to then love yourself, but also to love others as well. And then the Buddha teaches about having love for parents and caregivers. He kind of talks about this in a way that it's almost like we can cultivate a debt of gratitude for our parents and our caregivers, because by having our parents bring us into the world, it provides us the best opportunity possible, which is to train your mind and be able to get to enlightenment, where without them, we wouldn't be where we are today. I've never met any child that has agreed with their parents 100% about everything they've ever done. If you've agreed with everything that your parents have ever done in your entire life, maybe raise your hand, because I've never met anybody like that whatsoever, where you've agreed with every single thing that they've actually done. And remember, if you can only love people who you agree with their choices and decisions, that means you can't love your parents and your caregivers because you haven't agreed with everything that they've done. So again, it's a matter of understanding that you can disagree with their choices and decisions while still loving them as a person. And one of the things that parents do for us and caregivers do for us is they bring us up, they show us the world, they help us to cultivate wisdom, they feed us, they provide us clothing and shelter and things like this. Even though we might have disagreed with some of those choices along the way, nonetheless, here we are as an adult being able to sustain our life and stand up on our own 2 feet, that we are independent of those individuals. And if it wasn't for them, we would have never gotten to this point. Because when we first came into this world, we were totally dependent. We couldn't get our own food. We couldn't clothe ourselves. We couldn't bathe ourselves. There were certain things that we needed from these caregivers. These are essentially our original teachers, our parents and our caregivers. And now what the Buddha teaches us is that there's almost like this debt of gratitude that we can repay them through certain things that he teaches. So I'm going to share a teaching with you from the Buddha where he talks about this, so you can see his words around this. So here, this is titled, Repaying One's Mother and Father. Monks, there are 2 persons that cannot easily be repaid. What 2? One's mother and father. Even if one should carry about one's mother on one shoulder and one's father on the other, and while doing so, should have a lifespan of 100 years, live for 100 years, and if one should attend to them by anointing them with balms, by massaging, bathing, and rubbing their limbs, and they even void their urine and excrement there, one still would not have done enough for one's parents, nor would one have repaid them. Even if one were to establish one's parents as the supreme lords and rulers over this great earth, abounding in the 7 treasures, one still would not have done enough for one's parents, nor would one have repaid them. For what reason? Parents are of great help to their children. They bring them up, feed them, and show them the world. So I'm going to pause here for a minute so you understand what the Buddha is teaching. He's saying that if we carried our mother on one shoulder and our father on the other shoulder, and we lived for 100 years, and we took care of them, we bathed them, we massaged them, we cleaned up their urine and their feces, we rubbed them with ointments and things like this, we still haven't done enough to repay them. If we established them as these, with all these material objects, like these rich lords and rulers over the entire world with all this material possessions, we still haven't done enough for them. The reason why is because these things are all impermanent, that they're not going to lead to ultimate peace and ultimate joy, the ultimate happiness and joy of the enlightened mental state. Those things are insignificant compared to what he's going to recommend that we do in order to repay our parents for this debt of gratitude. So the Buddha goes on. He says, but monks, if when one's parents lack confidence, one encourages, settles, and establishes them in confidence. If when one's parents are unwholesome, one encourages, settles, and establishes them in virtuous behavior or moral conduct. If when one's parents are selfish, one encourages, settles, and establishes them in generosity. If when one's parents are unwise, one encourages, settles, and establishes them in wisdom. In such a way, one has done enough for one's parents, repaid them, and done more than enough for them. So what he's sharing here is that we can help our parents to be able to understand the teachings that it takes to them to get to more and more peace and more joy, to the enlightened mental state. And that would be repaying them. And if you choose to do this, you would need to do this in a humble way, in a respectful way, without any conceit or without any craving yourself. So the Buddha says when one lacks confidence, what he's talking about here is lacking confidence in him or the teachings. Because as you're learning and practicing these teachings, the condition of your mind and your life is going to be gradually improving. You're going to get to a point where you have nothing but pure confidence in the Buddha, the teachings, the community, your teacher, and your own ability to get to enlightenment. You will eliminate all your doubt. You'll know that these teachings are leading to improvement in your life and in the condition of your mind. And when you have that confidence, the Buddha is saying, hey, we can help others to gain confidence in him. Right? So like maybe my sister might be struggling with a certain challenge. And I'll say, the Buddha has an excellent teaching that will really help you in this situation. And she may or may not be interested in learning that, but nonetheless, I'm there looking to establish her in confidence. Even though we're talking about parents here, I'm giving you this example with what I do with my sister every once in a while. Or here the Buddha says that when someone is unwholesome, like your parents are unwholesome, that you establish them in virtuous behavior. So an example I might give you there is that, I grew up with my grandparents. I had a lot of time with them. Of course, I had my parents, but I grew up with my grandparents a lot. I was spending a lot of time with them. And my grandparents grew up in a very different time than we did. My grandparents were born in the 1920s. And when they were growing up, they lived in a very different USA than I grew up in, and maybe you grew up in. They grew up when people of a certain color of skin would drink at one type of water fountain and another color of skin would drink at another water fountain. And they would eat at restaurants where if you had one color of skin, you could come in the front door and eat at the restaurant. And if you had another color of skin, you had to go to the back door and access food that way, if they would even let you do that, right? So there were times when I would be with my grandparents and maybe they were driving me to school or something like this when I was in college. And I would hear them say something that we might consider to be racist. And when I would hear that, I would know that that's unwholesome and that's unwise. And I would start talking to them and help them to maybe think about things in a different way. But I needed to do that in a humble way. I needed to do that in a way that didn't involve craving. And I needed to do that in a respectful way. So that then over multiple conversations, they slowly but surely gradually changed their views and perspectives. And they started to understand that, yes, it doesn't matter the color of your skin. We can love all beings equally. And they ultimately came to this conclusion over multiple years. But it took me taking time to help them to understand this more virtuous behavior and the way that they interacted and spoke with people. Then when you notice that people are selfish, like your parents are selfish, the Buddha teaches to establish them in generosity. What this is that because of craving, desire, attachment in the mind, where the mind's holding on, the mind can be selfish. And now, because of that cravings, desires, attachments, the mind's going to experience anger and frustration and irritation and annoyance and all these other discontent feelings. But when you come to understand that there's multiple teachings that the Buddha is sharing to be able to help someone eliminate craving, desire, attachment, and generosity is one of those things, then when you see that someone's selfish, you know that they're having difficulties and struggles in their life, and you might decide to establish your parents in this generosity where you encourage them to be generous. And again, you're going to need to do that in humble and respectful ways. Then when you see that they're lacking wisdom, the Buddha encourages you to be able to establish them in wisdom. And again, you need to do this in humble and respectful ways. Whereas if you're constantly berating them with certain things, this is coming from your craving, this is using wrong intention, wrong speech, this is coming from the conceit. You need to be able to do this skillfully, and it's going to take you time to first learn these teachings yourself and become wise about it. Then you might need to share with them once or twice or maybe 3 times over the period of 6 to 12 months. And then ultimately, if they're just not interested in these teachings, then you've done enough. You've tried. And that's what the Buddha is saying, is if you've tried to establish them in confidence and moral conduct or virtuous behavior, and generosity and wisdom, if you've tried to establish them in these qualities, then you've done more than enough for them. And that's where you repay them for this debt of gratitude. So you'll need to figure out ways to do this skillfully. And I can give you different examples of that if you have questions about it. And then lastly, before I turn on everything back so that you guys can open up your cameras and open up your mics and ask questions and stuff, is let's talk about life partners. That oftentimes, if you choose to have a life partner, you might be struggling in those relationships where you might be putting expectations on your life partner. And you need to get those expectations out of the way so that your true love can shine through more and more, where you just love this person as they are, where you don't want them to be a certain way, you don't expect them to be a certain way, but you just love them as they are, realizing that they are a work in progress, just like you, right? You're not perfect, they're not perfect, and you guys are going to need to work on this, do this inner work, this inner growth, this inner development in order to become better and better individuals. And as you guys become better and better individuals, you'll be better and better in your relationship as well, because your mind will be functioning differently. It really helps if you have a life partner who is interested in these teachings. So right now, if you don't have a life partner or you have a life partner, you might be interested in talking with these individuals about these teachings so that they could potentially be interested. Because if you're doing all this inner work and this inner growth and this inner development and they're not, they're going to be really struggling on their life, and you're going to be becoming more and more peaceful and more joyful. And this is going to be very challenging for you in the relationships. For example, if you understand what true love is and they don't, let's just say they go on a business trip and they call you a couple of days after they've been away and they say, "Hey, honey, how are you doing? I really miss you. Do you miss me?" And if you're like, "No, I don't miss you," right? They might really struggle with that, right? They don't understand that that feeling of missing is actually coming from their attachment. It's not coming from their love. They might think that because you don't miss them, that you don't love them, right? So I don't recommend you answer the question that way, but if you happen to answer it that way, they could really struggle. They might be looking for that indication that you love them in their eyes, that you're feeling miserable, that you're having a horrible time while they're gone, that you just can't live without them. Like these songs that we hear on the radio. "I just can't live without you. I'm down on my knees begging you, please come back to me. I don't feel good unless you're with me." This isn't the love. This is the attachment. And this is one of the reasons why it's so challenging for people to understand what true love is because you hear these songs over and over and over again that's talking about what you might think is love, but what they're actually singing about is attachment. And when you listen to love songs now, you might actually listen to them very differently. When they're talking about how miserable they feel, and I can't go on in life without you, and life just isn't going to be the same unless I'm with you, this is craving, desire, attachment. That is not the love. Okay, so by having a life partner that is interested in these teachings, you guys can be learning together what is true love, and you can be practicing it more and more, and you can have more sustaining and more fulfilling relationships. So if you don't have a life partner now, this might be something that you talk to a potential future life partner about if you choose to have one, and then maybe they'll be interested. Or if you currently have a life partner, you might at some point be interested to talk to them about learning these teachings and see if they would be interested at all, because it's only going to enhance your relationships. But then also, there's going to be people who are single and choose not to have a life partner. And that's completely fine too. Because of impermanence, not everyone's going to have a life partner. So if you decide that you would like to be single in life, then be single and go forward in life and be single and be joyful and content and peaceful in your single life. So I'm going to pause here and see if you guys have any questions that you would like to ask about true love and love without attachment. You're welcome to let me know by putting your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. You can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any and all questions that you like. I think that I've opened up Zoom now so that you guys can maybe turn on your cameras or open up your microphones and raise your hands and things like that if you have questions. Apologize for the individuals who came in and tried to bash what we're doing here. I think you guys should be able to do that. If you can't raise your hand, just put something in the comment section and I'll see if I maybe missed a certain setting that allows you guys to do that. And then I'll look in Facebook and Zoom and see, or Facebook and YouTube and see if there's anything there as well. Okay, looks like Kristen and Ted have been able to raise their hand. So go ahead, guys.
Hey, David, it's Ted. It's the more we do Sundays and Wednesdays together, and we practice as best we can. A lot of my questions are taken away. It's more of a comment, and I can identify so much more. Yes, I could see my attachment to my wife. We both can after doing this work with you. But there is such an underlying true love as well. And to be able to decipher those two things from one another becomes clearer and clearer. But like I said before we started today, it's every day it's more and more apparent how craving, desire, attachment is through and through my DNA, it seems, and the journey that it's going to take to move away from that, or the practice, I should say. So it's more of a Kristen asked me if I had a question, and all my questions get answered by what by what you describe and what you teach. It's more of a comment. So that's it. Thanks.
Okay, yeah, you're welcome. So I'll just share with you that, as you probably know, craving, desire, attachment is not in your DNA, because you can't change your DNA, right? But you can change your craving, desire, attachment. You can eliminate that out of your mind. But yes, the unenlightened mind, because of its lack of wisdom, that ignorance or unknowing of true reality, the misunderstanding and confusion, it does have craving, desire, attachment in the mind, and it'll be there as long as somebody stays unwise to that, and as long as they haven't trained their mind otherwise, it'll continue to stay there. But as you guys are doing this work together, I imagine that it's also not only challenging and maybe sometimes even struggle and difficult sometimes, but it's also probably very fulfilling. That when you guys have these breakthroughs, it probably really helps you guys a lot in your relationship. And I know that you guys like to do things together a lot. One of the things that I would encourage you to do is to go learn in the class. You might have already learned it, but if you go to our YouTube channel and you pull up through the search of how to eliminate attachment to those who are closest to us, there's a class that I teach about 4 times a year. It's been recorded multiple times, that you can learn about how to eliminate attachment to the people who are closest to you. Part of that, and getting started with that, is to learn what is true love. That's the first part of that. But then there's very specific techniques of how to eliminate attachment to the people who are closest to you. Like when you guys travel, I don't know if you guys do this, you can sometimes do things on your own, where even though you're in Thailand for like 2 weeks or 4 weeks or what have you, you guys can go off and do different things separately sometimes. And this will help you to train your mind to let go. And there's other things like this. There's contemplation of death and things like this that you can do. And the more you let go of attachment to someone, the more your relationship will become sustaining and fulfilling and satisfying. It's actually just the opposite of the way that the mind thinks in the unenlightened state. We think the more we hold on and the tighter that we hold on, that this relationship's going to stay intact, but it actually crushes the relationship. It like sabotages it. And what we learn through observation and through experience is that it's actually when you hold an open hand and you just support the relationship in your hand, almost like a flower or a butterfly. If you hold that butterfly in your hand and you just look at it and support it and encourage it, the relationship actually goes better. Whereas if you try to hold on to it real tight, you'll crush the butterfly and you'll kill it, just like the relationship. So thank you for what you're sharing, Ted. And pleased that you guys are doing this work together, because that can be so wonderful and so fulfilling for your relationship. Yeah, you're welcome. Mayuli has a question here on Facebook. She says, "Teacher, my parents were separated before I was born. I never had a relationship with my biological dad. He passed away many years ago. I never had the chance to repay him with the Buddhist teachings when he was alive. Is there something I can do now, or is it too late? Will there be unwholesome karma that I need to experience? So the answer is that now that he's passed away, there's nothing that you can do. And that's just the result of cause and effect and action and result. There's absolutely nothing you can do once somebody's passed away. But that doesn't mean you're going to experience unwholesome karma because you didn't get a chance to share the teachings of the Buddha with him. That was his choice to move away from you and to be separate from you. Those were choices that he made, and you didn't have that relationship with him. And you probably didn't have the wisdom, even if he was part of your life for that period of time, you probably didn't even have the wisdom at that time to be able to help him. At this point, the best thing you can do, if you haven't already, is just hold in the mind this love and gratitude and appreciation for the fact that he was able to give you this life. Through his relationship with your mom, you were able to come into the world, and now you have the best opportunity ever, which is to be able to get to enlightenment. So just have that appreciation and that gratitude and that respect, and that's all you need to do. And perhaps you're no longer attached to your dad, or maybe there wasn't even an opportunity for the attachment to get formed, that maybe you've let go. And if you haven't, that's something that you'll need to be able to do, is let go of any attachment while maintaining the appreciation, the gratitude, and the respect for the life that you have been given, and that this relationship that happened that allowed you to have this life. And there isn't going to be any unwholesome karma related to that particular relationship. It looks like Paul is back. Paul, would you like to try to ask your question again? I think I answered it as part of what I was discussing, but I'm not sure if you were here. You might have to go back to the recording and actually hear what I shared. But if you have a question, you're more than welcome to be able to ask that. Let's see, we have some things coming in on YouTube. If somebody from your family harm you, how can you love them? You need to be able to understand what harm is. Harm is when somebody's harmed your material possessions, when they've harmed you physically, or they've harmed your reputation. That's the harm that somebody can do to you. If you're experiencing painful feelings, it's not your family members or other people that have caused that, but oftentimes the mind perceives it that way. So if somebody's harmed your material possessions, your physical body, or your reputation, you can understand that that was choices and decisions that they made, and you don't have to hate them. You can just have a genuine interest in seeing them be well. It doesn't mean you need to have a relationship with them, but you need to at least get to the point where you're not holding on to your anger and resentment. Because if you're hanging on to your anger and resentment, it's kind of like the mind might have a grudge towards this person, and you think that that's your way of getting back at them, that you're going to hold on to this anger and this resentment, and now you're getting back at them. But really what you're doing is you're like holding on to a hot coal, trying to burn somebody else. And the only person that's getting burned is you. So by you getting rid of your anger and hatred and resentment towards people, it's actually helping you. It's not doing anything for that person. It's helping you. So in a situation where someone has harmed your material possessions, your physical body, your reputation, just understand that those are unwise decisions that those people chose to make, and you don't have to hate them for that. That's just the nature of impermanence, that some people are going to absolutely treat you wonderful, and some people are going to hate you, right? Even the Buddha, even Jesus Christ, even Prophet Muhammad, these people have done amazing things for the world. There's people that absolutely love them and adore them, and there's people that despise them and hate them with every ounce of their body and their mind, right? So if those people have individuals who hate them, surely you're going to have people that hate you. But that hate that they're experiencing isn't coming from you, it's coming from their mind. You haven't caused that person to hate you. It's their own mind that's choosing to hate you. So you can step away from a relationship and choose to love this person from afar, meaning that you have a genuine interest in seeing them be well. Doesn't mean that you're going to do something. It doesn't mean you're going to have any particular actions towards them. It just means that you're going to maintain this genuine interest in seeing them be well, this active goodwill towards them. It's a mental state. And whether you choose to put intention, speech, and actions behind that is a choice for you to make of whether or not you're going to be in a relationship with them or not. But you don't have to be in a relationship with someone to actually love them. And remember, love is a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. We have some more coming in here on YouTube. Deborah's asking, how do you deal with attachment when someone dies? When someone dies, if you're experiencing emotions like sorrow and grief and displeasure, there is an attachment there. And them dying is actually going to help you to be able to eliminate your attachment. Because as long as that person's alive, it's actually more challenging to eliminate your attachment, but it absolutely can be done. You can surely eliminate attachment to people who are alive. There are certain teachings that you need, certain wisdom that you need to learn how to eliminate attachment to people who are alive. But once they're dead and they've passed away, if you continue with your breathing mindfulness meditation, you continue with your generosity, you continue to train your mind to cut off and let go of any discontent feelings that are arising, eventually you'll get to the point where you can maintain your appreciation, your gratitude, and your respect for this individual, but you won't have any grief or misery or sadness. See, one of the challenges that we have when craving, desire, attachment is masquerading as love, and those painful feelings are coming up, and we think that that's because of the love, we feel like by letting go of the painful feelings, we're letting go of the love. Right? I had a girlfriend that died, my very first really significant girlfriend, when I was 16 years old. She died when I was 16 years old, and apparently she was pregnant at the time. She was like, maybe like 6 weeks or 8 weeks along, and it sent me into a deep depression. I was very sad for a long period of time, and I was holding on to those painful feelings because I thought that that was the love, and I felt like if I got rid of those painful feelings that I was letting go of the love. But what I learned through that, among many other things, is that I could let go of the painful feelings and maintain my love for this person. So when you see very clearly that the painful feelings are not from the love, your mind will be more willing to let those go and cut those off and let those go, so you can get to the point where you have appreciation and gratitude for the people in your life, but you don't have to have these painful feelings, because those painful feelings aren't helping you whatsoever. So when someone has died and you're grieving, just know that that is from the attachment, but you don't have to continue to be attached. You can understand that because they were born, they had to die. And all that's happening is your mind is craving permanence, and you can train your mind to let that go. And now you can have this love that continues in the mind, where you have this love and respect and gratitude. You can get to the point where, like, say mom is still alive, you can actually train your mind to eliminate your attachment to mom. And then when she actually dies, you won't grieve at all. Right? This was my experience. When my mom died in 2017, I didn't grieve at all. And it's not because I didn't love my mom, it's because I wasn't attached to her. I had trained my mind before that to not be attached to her. So you're going to need to know the Eightfold Path and practice that deeply in order to eliminate your cravings, desires, attachments. And then you're going to need to learn in the class that I mentioned to Ted about how to eliminate attachment to those who are closest to you. Because there are certain things that you can be doing in terms of techniques that are going to help you eliminate your attachments to individual people. And this isn't the class that I'm teaching that, but it's available on our YouTube channel. But it really starts with first understanding what true love is and understanding the Eightfold Path and practicing that closely. So if you haven't done those two things yet, be sure you do those, and then learn the techniques of how to eliminate attachment to those who are closest to you. And that's what's going to help you to be able to eliminate attachment to people who are alive, but also people who have passed away as well. Okay, it looks like Paul is back. If you'd like to go ahead, sir.
Okay, David, this is my third attempt, and if this fails, then I'll give up. Because I moved location. My Wi-Fi, I guess, is giving me trouble. What I was saying is that much of the focus of today's discussion on love is about loving, others. But is it not true to say that where you need to start before you love others is to love yourself? And if so, where do you start there? Like, if you don't feel that you love yourself, you go from there. Like, what's step one to start building a love for yourself?
Sure. I talked about this, but you were away probably working on your Wi-Fi, because that was part of today's class, is learning how to love yourself. You might decide to go back and look at the video from today, either in YouTube or in Facebook. It'll also be on our podcast as well. But essentially, the heart of it is you got to get to the point where you understand that these expectations are getting in the way of you loving others, but it's also getting in the way of loving yourself too. That when you put expectations on yourself and you're not meeting those expectations, you'll have a difficult time to love yourself. So you got to get these cravings, these desires, these expectations out of the way towards others, but also towards yourself as well. And I talked about it in more detail during the class. So if you'd like to go back and learn with that, and then any questions that you have, you can post them in our Facebook group. You can send me a private message. You can ask in a future class, or you can schedule personal guidance and I'll help you.
I've been following the podcasts that you have recorded. You mean to say that even today's is available like right away? Like it's, do you go to the same place to get today's podcast as I do for the ones that you recorded, years ago?
So the YouTube video in the Facebook group will have this class immediately. It's there right now. You could actually watch it.
Okay.
The podcast for today's class will get published on Wednesday because I need time to edit the audio, but then it'll be published on Wednesday. So you could learn it in either of those places.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome. Okay, let me take one more look to see if we have any other questions. You're welcome, Deborah. Pleased to help you. Welcome to all of you guys online. Okay, it looks like we don't have any other questions coming in. So what I'm going to do then is just end class by thanking all of you guys for joining and just reminding you that I love every single one of you. I have a genuine interest in seeing every single one of you be well. And I don't want anything from you. I don't expect anything from you. I just love you as you are. Of course, I'm going to disagree with certain choices or decisions that you make, and you're going to disagree with certain choices and decisions that I make. But we can still love each other because love doesn't require us to do anything particular. Unconditional love is just to love you as you are. So no matter what you do in life, there's nothing you could ever do for me to stop loving you. It doesn't matter what you ever do. You could murder my son. I'm not suggesting you do that, but if you did, you could murder my son, you could murder my wife, and I would still love you, meaning I would have a genuine interest in seeing you be well. So thank you all for everything that you do in order to support me and help me in life to be able to share these teachings with all of you. And you're always welcome to learn with me because I love you as you are, but I'm here to help you and encourage you and support you in your growth and development on the path. And I only do that because I have love for you, which is a genuine interest in seeing you be well. Next week in our class, we're going to be in chapter 16 of our book. This chapter is titled Dissolving the Ego. Ego serves no purpose. This is where you're going to learn about what the ego is and how to actually eliminate it, because this is important for you to be able to get to true love. But you first need to understand what true love is before we can talk about eliminating the ego. You're also going to need to eliminate the ego in order to have harmonious relationships, because as long as the ego is involved, people are not going to like that and they're going to push you aside. So you're going to need to learn how to dissolve the ego so that you're not being arrogant and prideful and boastful and putting yourself above people and below people. I'm going to teach you about this in more detail next week. Tomorrow, I'm going to be starting here in Chiang Mai a course called Foundation in the Path to Enlightenment. This is a monthly course that I do every single month, the very first full week of every month. So I'm going to be doing that Monday through Friday this week from 9 to 3 p.m. And then in about a week and a half, I'm going to be traveling to California in the USA, and I'm going to be teaching a course there. It's like the third week of March. It's on our website where I'm going to be teaching in California. So if any of you guys are in California or you're accessible to California, you're more than welcome to come there and learn as well, because I'm going to be teaching the introduction to the teachings of the Buddha, and I'm going to be teaching the Foundation in the Path to Enlightenment course in California. So you're always welcome to join there. And I'm going to be live streaming that course as well. So I'm going to be teaching on a time zone that I don't normally teach on. So if you guys are in that time zone or close to that time zone, you might actually be able to learn at a time that you otherwise wouldn't actually be learning, because I'm going to be in a time zone that's closer to where you are. So you might decide to tune in that way as well. So thank you all for joining. Thank you for your interest to learn and grow and develop on the path to enlightenment. As you need help, feel free to reach out. I'm here to help you. And perhaps I'll see you guys in one of these future classes. Be well and take care. Sawadee.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To provide support for this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha. To access more teachings, visit buddhadailywisdom.com. There, you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Remember to establish a daily, consistent meditation practice, along with learning and practicing these teachings. A well-developed meditation practice is the foundation in which to train the mind to attain enlightenment.